Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar session on our postgraduate programs in business psychology here at UWA. I'll wait another couple of seconds before I move on to the next slide. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. The University of Western Australia acknowledges that its campus is situated on Noongar land and that Noongar people remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land and continue to practice their values, languages, beliefs, and knowledge. My name is Lisette Cansey. I'm a lecturer at the School of Psychological Science, and I am the course coordinator for the business psychology programs in our school. With us, we also have Roberto de Nobrega, who is a student in his second year of the Master of Business Psychology program. You'll get to hear from him at the end of this webinar. Here's an overview of what to expect in this webinar. I'll start by explaining the relevance of psychology skills and knowledge in work or business settings. I'll describe what our business psychology programs look like, and I will try to convince you why you should study business psychology at UWA. And we'll conclude by sharing with you what it is like to study at UWA. And this is where you'll hear from Roberto regarding his experience so far. So taking a couple of steps back first, what is psychology? Those of you who have studied psychology will already know this, but please bear with me. All of this is to show how psychology is important in work settings. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and of behavior. Delving into the inner workings of the mind helps explain why we feel and act the way we do, how we view the world, and how we can do better. So psychology is everywhere. Hardly ever does a day go by that you don't interact with others. Understanding of why people think and behave the way they do is invaluable in such interactions. Because psychology is so universal in nature, it complements the study of any other discipline. Some of you may well have already discovered that in your undergraduate studies. With skills and knowledge in psychology, you can make people's lives better in a range of settings and careers. Traditional pathways that most people are aware of typically include clinical psychology, where you treat individuals one at a time and help them overcome issues like anxiety and depression. But there are also psychologists who are analyzing consumer behavior, investigating crime, helping athletes reach their potential, designing cockpits for NASA, solving organizational problems, and creating better workplaces. It is in these last three areas, in particular, that we see psychology skills and knowledge applied to the workplace. There is a range of exciting careers in this area, which we call industrial and organizational psychology, or work psychology, or business psychology. So with that introduction, let me tell you about the programs we offer in business psychology to help you prepare for such careers. So the Master of Business Psychology is a new program that we have been offering only for a year, actually, at the moment, for a year and a few months. We started first in semester 2 of 2020, and this program is offered alongside our Master of Industrial and Organizational Psychology program that we have been offering for many years. Now, for the Master of Business Psychology program, you do not need a fourth-year honors degree. A 3-year bachelor's degree with a single major in psychology is sufficient at the moment as eligibility criteria. Whilst this program does not put you on the pathway to professional registration as a psychologist, it does provide you with a very practical toolkit of applied psychology skills for a career in creating better workplaces, and it will train you up for jobs such as organizational development consultant, change manager, people development leader, and so on. What I also would like to point out is that we have just launched at the start of this semester, this year, a 4-unit online graduate certificate with some of the core units of this master's program. And this graduate certificate is not only of interest to those who are recent graduates, but also for those with a few years of work experience who have moved into, are keen to move into team leadership roles and are looking for training to upskill in this area. I am not sure whether there are any parents listening, but if they are, perhaps some of you might be interested in this program too. Now, for the graduate certificate in business psychology, you will satisfy the eligibility criteria with a bachelor's degree in any discipline. Whereas for the master's program at this stage, you will need to have at least a single major in psychology. But that is looking to be changed in the future as well. All right. Having said that, the skills and knowledge that you will learn when you are studying with us in business psychology, first of all, organizational problem diagnosis and effectively implementing organizational change initiatives. Then another key area that you will be learning about is team development and teamwork. There's an entire unit dedicated to that topic. We also teach you about effective leadership behavior and about improving work design to enhance employee effectiveness, so people's performance and productivity, as well as people's well-being at work and work health and safety. We will also teach you about applying the principles of human factors to optimize human system interactions. Remember when I pointed out to career paths earlier and said designing cockpits for NASA? Human factors is a key discipline in that area that is relevant for that area. And then finally, we will teach you about employee training and skill development. So why should you study business psychology at UWA? First of all, I'd like to believe, and Roberto can confirm that for us later, that we have a very enthusiastic team of lecturers that will deliver these different coursework units that are part of the program. Also, we are quickly becoming the largest subdiscipline in our School of Psychological Science. Our school and also our discipline is known for excellence in teaching. Also, we will generate plenty of networking opportunities for you, not just with industry connections, but also with students from other programs, because like I pointed out before, the Master of Business Psychology is offered in parallel with the Master of Industrial and Organizational Psychology. And then of course, by offering both a master and a graduate certificate in business psychology, you will get to meet people from the graduate certificate if you're in the master's program, and vice versa. And typically in the graduate certificate, these are people with heaps of work experience who have just come back to university to study at postgraduate level to upskill in business psychology areas. Another good reason for studying with us business psychology at UWA is the flexibility that the Master of Business Psychology program offers. We have a good working relationship with the Master of Human Resource and the Master of Commerce programs in the business school. And we have sort of an exchange agreement with them that our students in our Master of Business Psychology program can take some of the key units that are part of the HR and the commerce studies that you can do in the business school. So there's flexibility in that sense. You're not stuck to a full program with only core units, but there are plenty of option units in there. And then also, of course, we provide a very welcoming community of fellow students who have been in the program for a little bit longer. And yeah, Roberta can probably attest to that one as well. It's a very friendly atmosphere. Students are very supportive of each other. You're not in this alone. You're in there with a network of other students. So what is it actually like to study business psychology at UWA? So with us, like I have said before, we have Roberta de Nobrega, one of our students who has been with the first cohort, the first intake ever of the Master of Business Psychology. I've prepared a couple of questions that I I'm going to ask Roberto, and then we'll open the floor to any questions that you as attendees of the webinar may have. So my first question for Roberto, what was your background prior to starting the Master of Business Psychology?
Yeah, so like you discussed earlier, I did the double major in psychology at UWA. And getting towards the end of that, I was looking to go into industrial organizational psychology and doing that honors year to get me into that. And I think that was when this program was first actually released, was the first semester as I finished that. So in communication with Lizette and a couple of the other staff in the business psychology school, yeah, I made the leap into that because it was very much what I wanted to do without having to take that huge research intense year of honors. So yeah, that was my background in just a double major.
Thank you, Roberto. Now, I did point out you do not necessarily need the double major to be eligible for the Master of Business Psychology, but we have found that actually at the moment more than half of our students have actually taken that double major. It's not a necessity, but it just turned out to be that way. Of course, what Robert also pointed out is that huge research component that you have to do as part of the honors year. The focus of the Master of Business Psychology is more on coursework units. That's not to say that we don't care about research, but we're more in the process of research translation so that we understand research that has been done by other people and what does that mean in practice for organizations. We even have a project that involves, to an extent, doing research. Maybe Roberto will speak of that one a little bit later. But let me ask him the second question that I have listed here. What did you enjoy most in your Master of Business Psychology studies so far?
I guess there's a couple things that I could take from both the social and the academic stance. So social, being that we started when it was all on campus, there's a group of us that all started at the same time, and being welcomed into the psychologist at work lab, you get to meet all the industrial organizational psychologists as well, the people in practice, and they really include you in everything. And they're more than happy to have a chat about everything. So just how friendly everyone is has been a big part of what's making it so enjoyable. And then the second part to that would be the academics. And that's definitely learning very, very, very practical content that you're able to apply. And that's as hard as it is when you're studying it, you can definitely see, and the lecturers put a huge emphasis on showing you how you can apply those principles, those concepts, those theories to the workplace. And being able to use that, I know Lizette was going to maybe mention it a little bit later, but in the second year, you can take a research, or take an industry project where you basically can go into an organization, help in diagnosing an organizational problem. And the practicality of the units, as daunting as it may sound, actually prepares you so well for that under supervision that you're able to go in there and actually make a difference, which is really, really enjoyable and really, I guess, puts confidence in yourself.
That's good to hear, Roberta. Thanks for explaining that. Brings me to my third question. And that may be a tricky one to answer, but you still have time. You have this semester to finish and you have another semester to go, right? But do you have any plans already for using your training, the things that you have learned in the Master of Business Psychology for after you graduate? Where do you see yourself heading in your career?
I think it goes back to the first semester that I had, where we had a unit that Lizette took, which was around work design. And that was so far, I think, one of the units that's probably resonated with me the most. And from there, developed a bit of a passion around that, which would probably get me moving towards people and culture management. Very similar to sort of the stuff that you might have to deal with organizational development. But I know there's a huge push at the moment for a lot of the mining companies having more people and culture officers and advisors coming on. Where you'll be working through employee wellbeing programs. You'll be helping with a lot of issues around the culture and promoting good workplace habits and overall job enrichment for those employees. So that's probably something that I'm going to be looking into.
Sorry, I struggled to unmute myself there. That's why I was keeping quiet. Thank you. Roberta, that is definitely an area where we would love for a lot of our graduates to go. Of course, there's a huge variety of careers that you can go into with business psychology, but to just make workplaces better for people, given that we spend such a huge portion of our time, of our waking hours in workplace settings, we might as well focus on how can we make them as supportive for people and as beneficial for people's well-being as possible. So fingers crossed that you end up finding a place there. I have no doubt that you will end up finding a place there. And indeed, also thank you for pointing out that you have been able to implement some of your learnings already under supervision in a project with a client organization where you're trying out some of your consulting skills. That might actually segue us nicely into that final question that I have. Have you come across any opportunities so far in your studies in the Master of Business Psychology where you could apply your learnings in practice?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with the program that they run in the second year, you're able to use all of those skills and those components, theories, and apply it. And doing it at UWA, having that organizational project at UWA, you have lecturers like Lizette that's able to supervise you through that process. So you're not thrown in the deep end. It's a very safe environment, despite working with an external organization, that you're able to say, hey, I think this is what's going on here. And you do get that reassurance that what you're doing is right. Furthermore to that, I definitely have noticed in my working life outside of uni that I'm able to identify different ways that I'm approaching issues, and it's definitely helped in that and my professional development, no doubt.
It's always good to get that immediate reassurance that what you are learning is applicable in practice and that you can carry that over even to your current work environment, that you don't have to wait necessarily until you graduate. So thank you for sharing that example as well. I might invite our attendees. I'm just keeping an eye on the Q&A. I don't think we have had any questions asked, but you know how when you're in a webinar, I'm assuming that most people who are attending have actually been in webinars before. If you hover at the bottom of your Zoom webinar interface, there's a little Q&A tab that you can click on. Our first person has found the Q&A tab. It's Mitchell who's asking us, how have you found people who haven't done psychology as an undergrad major cope with the graduate certificate? Okay, and then additionally, once that's completed, how have you found them transitioning into the master's? Okay, that second part, I cannot answer, Mitchell, just yet, because the graduate certificate is only offered for the very first time this semester. So we haven't had anybody completing the graduate certificate just yet. We're still processing through the curriculum management system that articulation from graduate certificate into masters. But then we need to put a couple of conversion units in place that will upskill people who haven't had that psychology background to have enough of those skills that we depend on for some of the units that are currently part of the masters and not part of the graduate certificate. But in the graduate certificate, we have been quite careful in selecting those units where we think that people will do all right, even if they lack the psychology knowledge. And sort of on the sidelines, we have been trying to explain a little bit extra, creating a few extra lecture videos to upskill these people as well. So it's been going really well, and they've been a lovely addition to classroom discussions at the same time. Any further questions? Otherwise, I do think we're running out of time quickly. Is science work placement useful for applying into? I think any work placement, Rachel, that's not a question in the Q&A, any work placement, anything that gives you practical work experience will help you see opportunities to apply skills and knowledge that you learn in our classes. So any work experience, whether it's placement or just outside of university, to put yourself through uni, is going to be useful for studying with us. So from the graduate certificate to the master's, how many extra units will need to be completed? A graduate certificate has 4 units, which equates to 1 semester full-time. The master's at this stage has 16 units, so you need another 3 semesters, another year and a half. So half a year for the grad cert, and then another year and a half for the master's. Amounts of subjects per semester, Noelia, that depends on whether you're working full-time or whether you're studying full-time. If you can study full-time and maybe work part-time along the side, you can pull off a full-time load. Roberto's doing that as well, aren't you? Working part-time and studying full-time. If you're working full-time, I would suggest maybe up to 2 units per semester.
Just on that, I'm working about 20 hours per week and managing full-time study load. And it's been pretty good, yeah.
Okay. I hear from Sarah that is the end of the time slot that we have available. Thank you so much for tuning in and engaging with us. I hope you found this useful. Always feel free to reach out or to check further information on the Study at UWA website, or reach out to me via email. I'm happy to answer any questions.